Hi, I'm Cynthia Murphy.
I'm Georgia Bowers. I had a mouthful of water, Cynthia.
Sorry. And this is Delete My Browser History. Welcome to the chaos. Today has been a
Yes,
chaotic day of recording.
it really has.
Yeah.
It really has.
Well, I'm going to round out July on one of my favourite topics, and it gives me great glee whenever I mention it. And somebody, you can see the look on the face, like, does not compute. What is that? I don't understand. And then I get to tell them what it is. So my new book that is coming out in January, that should hopefully have been announced this month. I'm hoping, because we've had Yelk. So I'm hoping that it was announced.
How weird. We're like in the future, aren't we?
We are in the future, because it's only
Hello.
mid-June now.
Hello.
But this will be out after Yelk.
Yeah.
So the new book that I've written is very, very inspired by this topic, which is creepypasta.
Yes.
So my editor didn't know what it was. She had to go and look it up. I was on a book club the other night and I was talking about it, and I mentioned creepypasta, and all the teenagers' eyes lit up and all the adults went, creepypasta? Like strange Italian spaghetti. No, it is not strange spaghetti. It's horrible. It's even worse. And I'm going to give you a warning now for some of the pictures that I'm going to put on Instagram. They're not graphic or anything, but they are scary. So thinking of like the Momo trend. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was
Momo face. And I used to scroll past it and be like, no, it's here again. And that's actually just a sculpture.
Yeah.
That someone had done, but it was a bit of a creepy pasta that, you know, it had a bit of myth and folklore.
Was that when we were all in lockdown? Or was that before lockdown?
It was before, because I was teaching and the kids knew about it, and you had to like, you know, you had to field. It was after Killer Clowns, but before pandemic. Always something fun. So creepypasta are horror-related legends that have been shared on the internet. So it can be anything. It can be ghosts, it can be murders, it can be zombies, it can be haunted TV shows, cryptids like Bigfoot, or it can be spooky games, which is what I looked into for my new book. So the etymology of creepypasta I found really interesting, because it's a portmanteau. I didn't know what that meant, I know, which means a blend of words apparently, of creepy and copy paste. So yeah,
I didn't know that part, I don't think.
But it makes sense, doesn't it? Because these stories that have been repeated and copied and pasted, it really reminds me of chain letters of the 90s.
Yeah.
But if anyone remembers chain letters, but you would get this letter and you would have to copy it out and give it to 5 different people, or you would get bad luck. And then you started to get them on emails when the internet became a thing. So it's just that kind of copy and paste, pass it on. It's like the modern version of a verbal folk tale. So in around 2007 on 4chan, the term was coined. So it basically means something that's gone viral, is a bit creepy, it has been copied and pasted. So the origins of creepypasta are quite unclear, because most of them were written anonymously. So just a story that had been written and put on the internet, and then it had been reposted and reposted. And then in the late 2000s to the 2010s, some dedicated websites started to appear. So we've got creepypasta.com. Oh, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here.
Yeah. We've got creepypasta.com, which was created in 2008, and the Creepypasta Wiki and the Reddit No Sleep threads were both created in 2010. So I'm going to tell you some examples of creepypasta.
Can't wait.
One story is called Jeff the Killer. So it's about a boy called Jeff who's being bullied. So he is being bullied by these kids. He gets beaten up. He's in a horrible state. And he goes to a birthday party or some kind of party, and all of these bullies are there and they start laying into him and he kills them all. But he kind of fights them and he kills them all, but he gets beaten up so badly that he ends up in hospital. So when he wakes up in hospital, he realizes that he actually quite enjoyed killing them all, and decides that that's what he wants to do. So he slices his own face into a permanent smile. He slices.
This is Jeff doing this.
Yeah, this is Jeff doing this to himself.
His name's Jeff.
It's sent, I know it's called Jeff. It sent him a bit mad. He decided he's going to be a serial killer. He slices his eyelids off so he never falls asleep. And then when he goes home, he kills his whole family. And as he's killing them, he whispers, "Go to sleep."
Oh. And
then he goes around sneaking into people's houses, whispering "go to sleep" to his victims and killing them. So that's a creepypasta. So there'll be hundreds of different versions of that all over the internet. And there are pictures that people have said that they've caught of Jeff the Killer. I'm going to put one on Instagram. You have been warned. They're quite funny. Like, you know, they're really obviously kind of Microsoft
it's not really Jeff.
Paint app. Let's put some fake eyes on. But they're a bit, you know, they're a bit scary. So that's one of the stories. So then I'm going to talk about a little subgenre. So you've got creepypasta, but like we said, it can be a ghost story, or it can be a murder, or it can be a zombie, or whatever. So there's one subgenre called lost episode creepypasta. And it's stories about, it's typically a kids' TV show that was never aired or was removed because it was so violent or grotesque. Or so it's a bit of an urban legend type thing. So some include stuff like Squidward's suicide, apparently is a lost episode of SpongeBob, and Dead Bart is a lost episode of The Simpsons. But then I was reading up, and apparently there was an episode of SpongeBob that ended up having to be taken off because it had referenced the creepypasta.
I was going to say they ever done that.
And they decided it was appropriate. So I don't know if that's true or if that's another creepypasta. I don't know. So I'm going to tell you one of, not my favourite, but one of the more interesting creepypasta characters. And then it's going to dive into true crime a little bit, because it actually inspired a quite horrible stabbing. So, trigger warning. Slender Man is a tall, thin humanoid. He's got no facial features and he wears a black suit. He originated in 2009 from the Something Awful Photoshop competition. So there was a guy called Knudsen. I've lost his first name. And he...
Jeff.
You know what? No, I don't know if it is. I've just written Knudsen. It might be Jeff. Maybe that's where that comes from. But anyway, he entered this competition and he did... he photoshopped this figure into the background of a 1970s image of loads of kids. Again, it'll be on the Instagram. And they kind of set up these stories around them. So stories of Slender Man feature him stalking, abducting, traumatizing children. He's got unnaturally long tentacle-like arms. If anyone's watched Stranger Things, he's a bit Vecna looking. And apparently, if he was nearby, you would get something called slender sickness, which would be a rapid onset of paranoia, nightmares and delusions, and nosebleeds. So scholar and folklorist Andrew Peck attributed the success of Slender Man to campfire stories or urban legends. So it's one of those, he could be anywhere, it can be retold by anybody, bit, you know, Bloody Mary style. It's here in every bathroom in every school across the world. And Knudsen, the guy who created the image, has cited Stephen King's The Mist, the Mothman, the tall man in the movie Phantasm, H.P. Lovecraft, and it's also been compared to the gentleman in Buffy. So he took inspiration from all
Yeah, I
those.
can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's very, very gentleman-like.
Yeah.
So obviously all this stuff is creepypasta and none of it is real, and it's stories that kids tell each other. However, on May 31st in 2014, two young girls, Anissa Weir and Morgan Geyser, they lured their friend Peyton into the forest.
Yeah.
And they stabbed her 19 times. They did it because they wanted to be proxies of the Slender Man. So luckily she survived. She was found and recovered after 6 days in hospital. She had crawled to the road and been found after they'd left her. But the girls had, so they thought by doing this that they would be able to go and live with Slender Man somewhere. So they had literally done this and then they'd gone off walking into the woods, and they had a bag of supplies with them, and they were just completely like entrenched in it. The girls were found not guilty by mental disease or defect, and they were both committed to mental health institutions. Now, they were tried as adults because in the state that they were in, they had committed an adult crime.
Yeah.
So they were tried as adults. One girl got 25 years to life, another got 40 years to life.
Gosh.
One of them was granted early release after 7 years, but she will be under supervision until she's 37. So what happened was they went to a park together and they were playing hide and seek. And they told the girl that she should lie in the leaves and that's where she should hide. And when she was down, they pinned her down and they stabbed her 19 times. So 2 wounds were to her major organs. They used a 5-inch blade, so like a kitchen knife. And they told her they were sorry and were going to go for help, but instead they walked nearly 5 miles and they were found near a motorway. They had the knife with them, it was in their bag. One girl was not remorseful at all, and the other girl said she did feel bad about it, but it was needed to appease Slender Man. So they believed that if they didn't do this, that Slender Man would come and kill their families.
Oh.
Or one girl had convinced the other girl that is what would happen by the sounds of it. So the girl who was kind of the instigator was later diagnosed with schizophrenia. I watched a really good documentary about it, and it interviews her parents, and her dad is schizophrenic, and you can see how much the parents, like they've fought with it so much that maybe they should have recognized it in her and they could have stopped it from happening. It's really kind of heart-wrenching. After the incident, creepypasta.com was blocked throughout the whole school district, and the guy who had created the Slender Man photograph, Knudsen, made a statement to say that he was saddened, but Creepypasta is a literary website. It doesn't condone murder or satanic rituals, because it was started to be talked about in that sense as well. The Creepypasta community actually held a 24-hour live stream to raise money for the victim, to show that they cared and that they didn't condone it. And I had to giggle a bit at this because this poor girl's been through this awful thing, and she's like 12, 13 years old, and she's out of school. And then the local governor decides, we'll do some fundraising, because obviously in America, medical bills are massive.
Yeah.
So they held a 1-day bratwurst festival before she went back to school. And I just thought, if I was 12 or 13 and I'd just been through this traumatic thing, the last thing I'd want to worry about before going back to school was the fact that everyone was going to associate me with a bratwurst festival.
Yeah, that's really weird.
I know, but apparently it was a beautiful community thing. They raised $70,000 for her medical bills, which obviously would have been so helpful. And then the whole thing led to a debate on the internet, and is the internet doing this to kids? But like books and games and TV before it, people have said no, because people watch and read these things all the time and don't go and commit stabbings.
Yep.
And there's an assistant professor at the University of Georgia who said it's no more dangerous than stories about zombies or vampires. You don't get people pretending to be a vampire because they've read Dracula. Well, not not murder people.
Not much anyway.
So why Slenderman had told them that they had to kill someone to be worthy of living. So apparently there's this creepy castle, creepy mansion, or Slender Mansion or something in the woods where all the creepypasta characters live, and they thought they were going to go and live there. They actually tried to kill her 3 times. So they were going to do it the night before at a sleepover, but decided that, you know, they wouldn't be able to get rid of the body. Then they tried on the same day in a public bathroom because it had a drain, but she fought them off and they kind of apologized and carried on. And then they finally did it that afternoon.
Oh, poor girl.
I know. And she spoke publicly for the first time at age 17. There's an ABC News documentary that you can watch on YouTube. And she talks to them. So that it was in 2019. So she said she doesn't remember most of it, which has been like a big relief to her. She remembers them telling her to lie down, cover herself in sticks, play hide and seek. And then she said when she realised what had happened, she's quoted as saying, "I got up, grabbed a couple of trees for support, I think, and then just walked until I hit a patch of grass where I could lay down." So a bicyclist found her, called 911. She said she remembers that, but her focus was in and out. She remembers seeing her mum at the hospital as the nurses were counting all of her stab wounds.
Oh, gosh.
One of them almost penetrated her heart, and one missed a major artery by less than 1 millimetre. And if either of those had gone through, she would have been dead.
Yeah.
Afterwards, she said she slept with her mum because she was so scared. She still finds it difficult to have friends and trust people. She agrees that they should have been tried as adults. She said stealing a candy bar is a kid's crime. This is not a kid's crime. They should have been, you know, tried as adults. But then she said, if I had to speak to them, she said, actually, I'd probably say thanks because I want to be a doctor now. And that's what I want to do with my life. And I might not have wanted to do that if this didn't happen. So she said, put everything behind her and live her life normally.
Oh,
so, but she said she doesn't want to see them. She doesn't necessarily forgive them.
No.
She worries about the fact that they will get out. But yeah, so a bit sad, but nice that it's good that she survived and she's kind of outspoken about it. And but I mean, I'll put it on the Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, she
was really, really into it. And like she had a notebook full of sketches of Slenderman, and she would she chopped her Barbies up and drew Slenderman symbols on them, and so she was properly in it. And then when she was diagnosed as schizophrenic, you can only imagine the kind of things that she was thinking and what she believed to be real. You know, that kind of concept of reality would have been completely skewed.
So she was so far into it. I mean, presumably you can then
a friend to go along with it, and I think
someone else
half scared that if she didn't go along with it, that she would
do it to her.
So the documentary that I watched is called Beware the Slender Man. It's a HBO one, but it's on Sky Crime, so you can watch it on Sky. And it's got real footage of the girls being interviewed in custody after it happened.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it's got interviews with their parents as well. So that was really interesting. There's one called The Wicked, which is a 2020 special, which is the one with Peyton, the girl who survived. And that's on YouTube. So I'll link that in the show notes. And then it's inspired a few different episodes of things like Law and Order, Criminal Minds, a film called Terror in the Woods, another one called Mercy Black. And then there's the Slenderman film, which was on Netflix. I don't know if it still is. That was 2018. I remember it being pretty terrible. I was disappointed. So there you go. That's CreepyPasta and an added bit of true crime.
Yeah, so people know what CreepyPasta is now. They should know.
Yeah.
I love a portmanteau word.
Portmanteau. I know, it sounds so posh.
So, do you know, I feel absolutely like drained from hearing all of that now. It's a lot, isn't it? I'm going to talk to you about poppets.
Okay.
Not sweet little girls.
No. Or the
poppets.
chewy candies.
in we're talking about that you could use as a trigger item, those things that you can pop, they're called poppets, the rubber things.
Oh, are they?
With the little, yeah, that you can pop in and out. They're called poppets, but I'm not talking about those either. So hold on, right, I've lost my place here. Where are we, Georgia? I've got my glasses on either, that might help. So I'm going to talk to you a bit about poppets, then I'm going to tell you how to make one, because you never know when you might need a poppet. So in Mark of the Wicked, this was a new scene, so you might, I think it was added after, they find a poppet in Oliver's car. And a poppet, so this is from Wikipedia, in folk magic and witchcraft, a poppet, also known as a moppet or a pippy, is a doll which is made to represent a person. So it's like for casting. Yeah, so it's made for casting spells on a person to help them help aid that person through magic. You can occasionally find them in chimneys, that classic place where you find things.